For some strange reason, people seem to love Darth Talon. But while plenty of Star Wars fans recognize her, very few actually know her story. And that's a shame, because Darth Talon wasn't just eye candy. She was a cold-blooded assassin, a hand of Darth Krayt, and one of the most dangerous Sith of her time. She hunted Jedi, broke enemies with brutal efficiency, and played a key role in the Sith's domination of the galaxy. So who was Darth Talon, really? Where did she come from? And why did she become one of the most feared Sith in history? Before we dive into Darth Talon's story, we need to understand the galaxy she fought to control. A galaxy almost unrecognizable from the one we know. Luke Skywalker was long dead, the New Republic had collapsed, and the Sith had evolved into something far more insidious. More than a century had passed since the fall of Emperor Palpatine, and in that time, the galaxy had been reshaped by war. The Jedi were on the brink of extinction once more, and the Sith ruled openly like the Sith of the Old Republic era. And in this remade galaxy, Darth Talon was one of its most dangerous villains. After the fall of Palpatine, the Galactic Empire didn't just vanish overnight. It fractured with warlords, remnants, and different factions all vying for power. Various imperial sectors, now leaderless, splintered into dozens of independent warlord states. Over time, through diplomacy and the influence of Luke Skywalker, the shattered empire slowly reformed under a new ruling family, the Fel dynasty. This dynasty was the descendants of Han Solo and Leia, through their daughter Jaina, who eventually married the first Fel Emperor. These Force-sensitive emperors followed the Imperial Knight Code, a unique order of warriors who balanced between Jedi and Sith philosophies. As the Imperial remnant reformed into the Fel Empire, the New Republic was on its way out. The New Republic had struggled to maintain unity in the aftermath of the Empire's fall, and the galaxy was constantly threatened by the remnants of Imperial forces. But the galaxy was soon faced with a much greater threat, the Yuuzhan Vong, an extragalactic race that launched a brutal invasion. The Vong were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were immune to the Force, and their biotechnology was organic, terrifyingly effective, and destructive. Their religious zealotry led them to wage a war of complete annihilation, conquering entire systems and devastating worlds, including Coruscant, which was taken by the Vong and later transformed into a twisted, living bio-world. The Yuuzhan Vong War was a brutal conflict that lasted for several years, leaving the galaxy in ruins and hundreds of trillions dead. But even after their victory, the Galactic Alliance, the successor state to the New Republic, struggled to maintain order. These fractures ultimately led to the Second Galactic Civil War, a complex conflict that we will cover in an upcoming video. Even after peace was restored, mistrust persisted between many worlds, with many seeking retribution against the Yuuzhan Vong and their other former enemies. In the shadows, the Sith were once again biding their time. Having learned from their past failures, they no longer followed the rule of two. Instead, the Sith sought to unify under Darth Krayt and his One Sith Order. The One Sith was a radical departure from the fractured Sith orders of the past. Under the rule of two, the Sith had been a secretive and divided order. One master, one apprentice. This philosophy had led to infighting, jealousy, and ultimately their downfall. But Darth Krayt, a former Jedi Knight who had turned to the dark side, saw the limitations of this doctrine. He believed that true power could only be achieved through total unity. The One Sith was born out of this vision, where Sith Lords and their apprentices were no longer divided by rivalry or mistrust. Instead, the Sith would function as one cohesive, united force. One Sith, one purpose, one ruler. Over the years, Krayt built his power base in the unknown regions of the galaxy, using the remnants of the Empire, ancient Sith artifacts, and forbidden dark side rituals to bolster his strength. After nearly 100 years in hiding, Krayt's One Sith would make its move, instigating the Sith Imperial War. The roots of the Sith Imperial War can be traced back to the Ossus Project, which began with the New Jedi Order's attempt to rebuild and restore the galaxy after the destruction wrought by the Yuuzhan Vong. Jedi Master Cade Skywalker, a prominent member of the Jedi Council, championed a bold initiative to prove that the Yuuzhan Vong's terraforming technology could be used for good. The project involved using Yuuzhan Vong shapers to terraform the desolate world of Ossus, one of the Jedi's most sacred and ancient strongholds. Skywalker and his allies believed that if the terraforming process succeeded on Ossus, it could be replicated on other devastated planets across the galaxy, thus transforming the galaxy's perception of the Yuuzhan Vong and their once destructive methods. The experiment initially appeared to work. Ossus was brought back to life with vibrant plant life and flourishing ecosystems. 100 worlds were selected for terraforming, and the process began with Yuuzhan Vong shapers working alongside Jedi to restore these planets to life. At the behest of Darth Krayt, the Sith secretly sabotaged the terraforming process. On several planets, including Wayland, the plants grew deformed, and horrific mutations, bony growths resembling the horrifying marks left by the Yuuzhan Vong's enslavement of populations, began appearing on the inhabitants' skin. This sabotage planted the seeds of suspicion and distrust throughout the galaxy, with many accusing the Yuuzhan Vong of resuming their crusade by covert means. The resulting chaos saw many worlds abandon the Galactic Alliance. Tensions reached a boiling point, and it wasn't long before the Fel Empire declared war on what remained of the Galactic Alliance. With the Alliance's member worlds divided, the Empire quickly gained the upper hand. However, Emperor Fel, though possessing a capable military, hesitated to fully commit to the conflict. His reluctance to allow the Imperial Knights to engage directly in the war kept the Empire's forces from reaching their full potential and crushing their enemy. 1 year into the conflict, the Sith entered the fray. Despite Rome Fel's reluctance, the Empire formed an alliance with the One Sith, who had manipulated events from behind the scenes. The war reached its tipping point in the Battle of Camus, where the Imperial fleet, bolstered by Sith support, dealt a crushing blow to the Galactic Alliance. The Alliance, now severely weakened, was unable to defend Coruscant, and the Galactic Alliance was forced to surrender. As the Galactic Alliance was pushed to the brink of collapse, a massacre unfolded on Ossus. Led by Darth Nihil, the Sith attacked the Jedi Order's sanctuary, in an event that would become known as the Third Jedi Purge. The final act of the war would come when Darth Krayt staged a coup against Emperor Fel. In a bloody palace attack, Krayt successfully deposed Fel and assumed the throne, crowning himself the new ruler of the galaxy. With the fall of the Fel Empire, a new Sith Empire was born. But not all was lost for Fel. He managed to rally loyalists and retake the planet Bastion, creating a rival faction. It was within this newly darkened galaxy that Darth Talon would rise to be one of the most important figures within this Sith Empire. From a young age, she was immersed in the dark side of the Force, honing her natural abilities under the brutal guidance of Darth Ruin, a seasoned Sith Lord. Ruin's teachings were designed not only to enhance Talon's raw dark potential, but to also instill within her a deep and unquestioning devotion to the tenets of the One Sith. Upon the completion of her training, Talon was put to the ultimate test. In the redecorated Jedi Temple, now known as the Temple of the Sith apprentice was given her final test by Krayt himself. The apprentice faced her Twi'lek master, who had trained her in the ways of the Sith. There was no hesitation. She struck him down without resistance, severing her final tie to the past. With her master dead at her feet, she was no longer an apprentice. She was Darth Talon, one of Krayt's hands, his most trusted enforcers and assassins, bound solely to his will. Her first assignment was immediate: locate and capture Princess Marasiah Fel, daughter of Roan Fel, the deposed emperor of the Galactic Empire. Talon's hunt led her to Socorro, a remote outer rim world known for its harsh terrain and lawless reputation. Marasiah Fel was traveling in secret, protected by her handmaiden, Astral Val, and an Imperial Knight, Elkaveta, one of the warriors sworn to defend the Fel dynasty. Talon struck without warning. Moving with the precision and lethality of a trained assassin, she engaged Veta in combat. The Imperial Knight was skilled, but against one of Krayt's hands, she stood little chance. Talon overpowered her, cutting her down in a decisive duel. The death of Elkaveta sent a ripple through the Force. Marasiah felt it instantly, the loss of her protector a sharp blow to her senses. But there was no time to mourn. With Talon closing in, she and Astral Val had no choice but to flee deeper into the shadows, attempting to stay ahead of their relentless pursuer. Elsewhere on Socorro, Cade Skywalker, a survivor of the Third Jedi Purge, had his own problems. Along with his companions Jariah Sin and Delia Blue, they were turning over the captured Jedi Hosk Trailis to a pirate named Rav, hoping to collect a bounty. Cade had long since abandoned the Jedi path, choosing instead to live as a rogue and a bounty hunter, numbing his connection to the Force through death sticks. Rav cheated them on the bounty, giving them barely enough credits to refuel their ship. He also handed Cade more death sticks, keeping him dependent and ensuring he remained under his influence. Meanwhile, Marasiah and Astral were running out of time. Fleeing through the streets of Socorro, Marasiah and Astral made a desperate run for the nearest starship that could get them off-world. Their only hope was an outlaw crew, a group of smugglers who happened to be nearby, preparing to leave the planet. They were of course Cade Skywalker, Jariah Sin, and Delia Blue. As the two women approached, Astral immediately tried to negotiate for passage, but Cade wasn't convinced. He wasn't in the business of taking on passengers without credits. But before Cade could negotiate, the choice was made for him. Darth Talon had arrived. Cade, now forced to make a decision, ordered his crew to take off immediately, allowing Marasiah and Astral to board. Tracking her victims across the galaxy, Darth Talon pursued Marasiah Fel and her allies to Vendaxa, a jungle world teeming with dangerous wildlife. Upon their arrival, Cade Skywalker and his crew encountered an Acklay, one of Vendaxa's apex predators. The creature nearly crushed Astral, but she was saved by her brother, Shadow Val, and Jedi Master Wolf Sazan, both of whom had come to rescue her and the princess. The Jedi dispatched the Acklay with ease, but their situation quickly worsened. Darth Talon had once again arrived, but unlike the Jedi, Talon did not arrive alone. Under the influence of Sith beast mastery, she commanded native predators of Vendaxa, unleashing them upon her opponents to divide their attention. The moment the Jedi turned to defend themselves, Talon attacked. She struck at both Shadow Val and Wolf Sazan, using a combination of her lightsaber and Force lightning, overwhelming them with sheer ferocity. The Jedi, despite their skill, struggled to counter her speed and precision. As the battle raged, Marasiah Fel intervened. She blocked Talon's lightning with her lightsaber, refusing to stand by while others sacrificed themselves for her. But her resistance was short-lived. With a simple gesture of the Force, Talon hurled her violently to the ground, demonstrating the vast power gap between them. As Talon prepared to finish the fight, Cade Skywalker made his choice. Tapping into the raw power of the Force, Cade lifted a pile of wreckage and hurled it at Talon, sending her crashing into the jungle. It was a momentary victory, but it bought them precious time. The group retreated to the Minnoch, only to find its flight systems severely damaged. With Princess Marasiah Fel and her allies trapped, Darth Talon tightened her grip, preparing to eliminate any remaining resistance. Sith reinforcements, including Darth Nihil, had now arrived. Victory seemed inevitable, but the Imperial Knights had other plans. Against orders, Antares Draco and Ganna Krieg launched a rogue rescue mission to retrieve the princess. However, as soon as they entered Vendaxa's atmosphere, Sith forces shot them down. The two knights survived the crash and immediately joined forces with Wolf Sazan and Shadow Val. The battle reignited with full intensity, and Darth Talon found herself engaged in a duel with Shadow Val. Talon fought with precision and aggression, her combat style blending acrobatics with brutal efficiency. As their duel raged on, Wolf Sazan faced Darth Nihil, engaging in a rematch of their fateful duel at the massacre on Ossus. Nearby, Cade Skywalker watched the battle unfold. He stood frozen, haunted by visions of his father's death at the massacre at Ossus. The horrors of the past resurfaced, paralyzing him as chaos unfolded around him. While Cade struggled, a Sith warrior seized the opportunity and attacked. But then, Marasiah Fel intervened. The princess threw herself between Cade and the Sith, striking down the attacker before they could land the killing blow. But in doing so, she was gravely wounded. For the first time in years, Cade felt the weight of responsibility crash down on him. He knelt beside Marasiah, staring at her fallen lightsaber, the weapon he had sworn never to touch again. But the vow no longer mattered. In an instant, Cade snatched up the blade, igniting it for the first time since abandoning the Jedi Order. Overcome with anger, he engaged Darth Nihil, the Sith responsible for the massacre at Ossus, where Cade had witnessed his own father's death. Neil taunted Cade, sensing the rage boiling within him, but Cade's raw power was undeniable. He fought alongside Wolf Sazon, his former Jedi Master, striking at Neil with unrelenting ferocity. Jariah Sin, despite his distrust of Jedi, attempted to intervene on Cade's behalf. This moment of distraction allowed Cade to land a decisive blow, kicking Neil off a cliff, temporarily removing him from the battle. With Neil defeated, the balance of power shifted. Talon, seeing the battle slipping away, continued to press her attack against Shadow Val. The Sith had lost the element of surprise, and with the Minnoch preparing to take off, Talon's chance at completing her mission was slipping away. As the Jedi and Imperial Knights retreated to their ship, Talon attempted to intercept them, but it was too late. The Minnoch lifted off before she could stop them. The mission had failed. Watching her enemies escape, Talon knew there was only one fate awaiting her, reporting her failure to Darth Krayt. Back in the Sith Temple on Coruscant, Darth Talon knelt before Darth Krayt, fully prepared to accept whatever punishment her master saw fit. However, Krayt saw something more valuable than success. Talon had uncovered something far more important than capturing Messiah Fel, the existence of Cade Skywalker. Through her pursuit of the princess, the Sith had learned that Cade not only possessed immense power in the Force, but also had the ability to heal wounds through the dark side. Rather than punishment, Talon was given a new directive. Cade Skywalker had revealed himself, and now he would be hunted. Cade Skywalker, haunted by his past actions, returned to Coruscant on a personal mission, to atone for turning over Jedi Master Hosk Traylis to the Sith. Cade moved toward his true objective, the Sith Temple, formerly the Jedi Temple, and now the seat of Darth Krayt's rule. Inside the Sith Temple, Cade located Hosk Traylis, only to discover the grim truth. Hosk had already been broken by the Sith and had revealed everything he knew about Cade. Before Cade could act, Darth Talon attacked. However, Cade was no ordinary opponent. Fueled by anger and desperation, he fought back with raw strength and unpredictability, nearly overpowering Talon. For a moment, it seemed Cade might win. Then Darth Nihil intervened. Striking from the shadows, Neil used the Force to choke Cade into unconsciousness, cutting off his resistance before he could deliver a final blow. The battle was over. Cade had walked into the Sith's lair alone and now found himself completely at their mercy. Cade Skywalker, now a prisoner of the Sith, found himself at the mercy of Darth Krayt. Before Talon's gaze, Darth Maladi, one of Krayt's most trusted advisors, experimented on Cade with Sith poisons, testing his resistance and willpower. When Cade refused to give in to Krayt's demands, the Sith Emperor escalated the stakes. He brought forward Jariah Sin and Delia Blue, Cade's closest allies, and revealed that they had been infected with latent Yuuzhan Vong coral seeds, designed by Darth Maladi to mutate and consume their bodies at an accelerated rate when fed dark energy. The excruciating pain drove them to the brink of death. Krayt gave Cade an ultimatum: either embrace his power and use the dark side to heal them, or watch them die in agony. Despite his defiance, Cade gave in, tapping into the dark side's raw energy to heal his friends. Though he saved their lives, he had also taken a crucial step toward falling deeper into the influence of the Sith. With his friends saved, Cade attempted to strike a deal. If Krayt let Jariah and Delia go, he would stay and listen. He made no promises of joining the Sith, but he understood that he was valuable to Krayt, and bargaining was his only option. The Sith Emperor, amused by Cade's defiance, accepted the terms and allowed Cade's friends to go free. Days later, Krayt summoned Cade and Darth Talon for a private meeting. He presented Cade with Cole Skywalker's lightsaber, encased in transparasteel, as a symbol of the Skywalker legacy. Darth Krayt revealed his past to Cade Skywalker, exposing his former life as Asharad Het, a Jedi Knight who had once fought alongside Anakin Skywalker during the Clone Wars. He recounted how Order 66 had forced him into exile among the Tusken Raiders, where he had lived as one of them, pillaging and raiding, until he was defeated by Obi-Wan Kenobi. The humiliation led to his exile from the Tuskens, and he eventually descended into the dark side, shaping the vision that would birth the One Sith. Cade, unimpressed by Krayt's tale, mocked him for his failures. His defiance was short-lived, as Darth Talon swiftly punished him, striking him down for his insolence. However, Cade, now teetering closer to his darker instincts, retaliated with overwhelming power, slamming Talon into the wall and demonstrating a chilling mastery of his Force abilities. Cade's raw connection to the dark side allowed him to perceive Talon's physical weaknesses, seeing every past wound like a map of broken lines across her body. With disturbing ease, he threatened to use his powers not to heal, but to kill her, to overload her body with energy and make her explode from within. Darth Krayt, seeing Cade's potential, ordered him to heal Talon, not as an act of mercy, but as a final step into darkness. Cade obeyed, using the dark side's unnatural abilities to restore her. In that moment, he sealed his fate, stepping fully into the grasp of the Sith. Krayt declared that from this moment forward, Talon would be Cade's master. Now immersed in the Sith's grasp, Cade Skywalker began his training under Darth Talon. Deep beneath the Sith Temple on Coruscant, Cade was thrown into combat against heavily armed training droids, battling for survival with a Sith lightsaber in hand. The fight was relentless, and as Cade displayed his combat instincts, Talon herself entered the fray, proving that he had much more to learn. She was faster, more precise, and ruthless, exploiting his weaknesses at every turn. When Cade grew arrogant, Talon swiftly cut him down, slamming him to the ground and stabbing him with her lightsaber, demonstrating the true pain of failure among the Sith. Even as Cade reeled in agony, Talon did not let up. She commanded him to use the dark side, to draw upon his pain, anger, and hatred to heal himself. This was the way of the Sith. Suffering breeds strength. As Cade Skywalker endured brutal training under Darth Talon, Darth Krayt revealed his true intentions to his second-in-command, Darth Twi'lek. Krayt was not simply molding Cade into a Sith warrior. He needed Cade's unique healing abilities. Years before, Krayt had been infected with a Yuuzhan Vong disease, an affliction that even his mastery of the dark side could not halt. While Twi'lek and many of the Sith resented the idea of bringing an outsider into their ranks, Krayt saw Cade as a tool for his survival, one that could be bent to his will. Over the next 3 weeks, Darth Talon continued Cade's training, but not only through combat. She sought to teach him the deeper philosophies of the Sith, showing him their art and culture. Talon emphasized that the Sith were not just barbarians wielding lightsabers. They were warriors, but they also had a civilization and a philosophy that set them apart from the Jedi. Talon also delved deeper into Darth Krayt's past, revealing how he had forged the One Sith Order. After his exile from the Jedi and his time as a bounty hunter, Asharad Het followed the call of the dark side, leading him to Korriban, where he encountered the ancient Sith Lord Zogsan. Zogsan, one of the first Sith Lords, had waited for someone like Het, someone who had served the light and found it lacking. She offered him knowledge, power, and a new purpose. In this moment, Het fully embraced the dark side and began his transformation into Darth Krayt. And now, Darth Talon had one mission: break Cade Skywalker, just as Krayt had been broken decades before. But Darth Talon did not need to break Cade Skywalker through pain alone. That had already been done. Instead, she offered something far more dangerous: temptation. She spoke of the dark side not as a burden, but as freedom. She told Cade that he could feel it, like a heartbeat, like something that had always been a part of him, waiting to be embraced. Talon moved closer, their connection deepening as she pressed against him. Cade did not resist. He wanted to believe, to let go. He kissed her, pulling her into his arms as if accepting what he had denied for so long. But the Sith never give without taking something in return. Cade awoke in his cell, but Talon was already gone. The warmth of her touch was replaced by cold realization. He had let his guard down. He had allowed himself to be drawn into their web. And now he would use it. He would betray them before they could do the same to him. But Talon had never been deceived. The moment Cade stepped into the corridors of the Sith Temple, she was waiting. As Cade greeted her, she struck without hesitation, a precise, brutal surge of Sith lightning. Cade crumpled instantly as darkness overtook him. Cade awoke in Krayt's throne room. Before him, Hosk Traylis knelt, the Jedi Cade had once betrayed to the Sith. Krayt's command was simple: kill him, become Sith, or die. Hosk had already accepted his fate. Jedi did not fear death. Cade hesitated, but Krayt did not. With a single merciless stroke, Hosk Trayless fell, his body vanishing into the Force. And with that, Cade's resistance shattered. Talon felt the moment his fury took hold, the instant that the Skywalker bloodline burned like a firestorm through his veins. A vision shimmered before him, Cole Skywalker, his father, standing before him in the Force. A warning, a plea. But Cade was done listening. With an explosion of raw power, he shattered the transparent steel case holding his father's lightsaber. Cade struck first, and Talon moved to stop him. She was fast, but Cade was faster. A searing line of green fire pierced through her stomach. Talon staggered back, collapsing to the ground. Her injuries were severe. The lightsaber wound Cade inflicted was near fatal, leaving her unable to fight as the battle raged on. As Krayt and Nil continued their struggle with Cade, Talon's role had ended. For now. Following Cade's escape from the Sith Temple, Talon was spared by Darth Krayt despite her failure and taken to be treated. After her near-fatal battle with Cade Skywalker, Darth Talon was left to recover in a bacta tank for many months. Having recovered from her wounds, Darth Talon once again stood at Darth Krayt's side, as loyal as ever. With Darth Nil replaced by Darth Strife, she joined Krayt, Strife and Darth Maladi on a mission to Had Abaddon, where reports indicated Cade Skywalker had been spotted. There, she faced Skywalker in battle once more, taunting him, reminding him of the darkness within him, that he was far closer to the Sith than he wanted to admit. She reminded him of their night at the Sith Temple, claiming they had become one in that moment. With a surge of anger, Cade Force pushed Talon away, removing her from the battlefield. But while she lay unconscious, a great betrayal unfolded. Krayt had faced Celeste Morn and the ancient Sith spirit Karnes Maw, barely surviving the encounter. In his weakened state, Darth Wylock saw an opportunity. The Sith Order had no place for weakness. Wylock struck, killing Krayt in secret and placing his body in stasis, ensuring none of the other Sith would suspect his treachery. Talon, unaware of this deception, was ordered to guard Krayt's chamber, believing her master still lived, recovering in deep meditation. She remained ever loyal, awaiting his return, while Darth Wylock ruled in his place. Sometime later, Darth Nihil arrived. He claimed he had felt Krayt reaching out through the Force. Together, they entered the stasis chamber, stepping into the darkened tomb of their master. The sight before them sent a chill through the Force. Krayt's armor stood empty. Their Dark Lord was gone. In the aftermath of Darth Krayt's supposed death, Darth Talon disappeared. Darth Nil had his suspicions. When he brought this revelation to Darth Wylock, he claimed Krayt had been murdered and pointed the blame at Talon, suggesting that she had struck down their master in secret before vanishing into the shadows. Wylock, still consolidating his power, ordered Nil to hunt Talon down, to bring her back alive or to eliminate her if she had truly betrayed the Sith. Nil descended into the Valley of the Dark Lords, a place shrouded in the ancient miasma of the Sith. The dark side pulsed through the tombs, clouding his senses, but he could feel Talon. She was hiding nearby. Meanwhile, deep within the tombs, Talon uncovered the impossible. Before her stood Darth Krayt, resurrected, his form twisted, gnarled and unnatural, yet thrumming with renewed power. Darth Nihil finally tracked Darth Talon to the depths of Korriban's tombs, fully intending to capture or execute her for her supposed betrayal. Their duel was swift and vicious, with Nil attempting to bring Talon back to face Darth Wylock's wrath. Before he could strike her down, Darth Krayt intervened. His resurrected form, infused with the dark side's raw power, dominated the battlefield. Krayt wasted no time. He understood the Sith's treacherous nature, knowing that challengers like Wylock would always rise. He had planned for this inevitability, and now it was time to show his chosen Sith the future of his empire. Darth Krayt recalled his long and arduous path through death, betrayal, and rebirth. Cast down and left for dead, he had barely managed to preserve himself through sheer will, wrapping his essence in the Force and clinging to existence. Yet, within his prison, he slowly healed, using the dark side to restore his broken form and strengthen his power. Talon's unwavering loyalty had saved him. she had heard his call, sensing his lingering presence within the Force, and unknowingly set him free. Now, reborn, he had returned not just to reclaim his empire, but to transform it completely. He led them into a hidden chamber, revealing his secret project, the Sith Troopers. These warriors had been carefully cultivated for decades, taken at birth, enhanced, and indoctrinated into unquestioning obedience. Unlike the One Sith who could betray him, these Sith Troopers were utterly loyal, their devotion engineered to ensure no insubordination, no ambition, only service. As if that weren't enough, Krayt also unveiled his new fleet, the Annihilators, dark side-powered starfighters designed to be superior to any existing ship in the galaxy. With them, his forces would achieve total dominance, combining Sith mastery of the Force with unmatched firepower. Then, with raw, overwhelming power, Krayt reached into the dark side, sending ripples across the galaxy, declaring to all who served the Sith, he had returned. Darth Krayt and his most loyal followers, including Darth Talon, arrived on Coruscant with a singular purpose: to reclaim the Sith Empire and destroy the traitors who had usurped his rule. His ships darkened the skies, casting ominous shadows over the Sith Temple, where Darth Twi'lek sat on a stolen throne. The Sith Lords within the temple sensed a dark presence, but before they could react, Krayt and Talon struck with ruthless precision. The battle was swift and merciless. Twi'lek, now face to face with the master he had betrayed, stood his ground, unleashing his full power. But Krayt had transcended death itself, emerging stronger than ever. The throne room shook with their clash, lightning crackled, the Force bent to their will, and the very walls of the temple trembled under the weight of their battle. Twi'lek fought desperately, his mastery of Sith sorcery and illusions warping the air around them. But Krayt was unyielding. His resurrection had given him clarity, power beyond anything he had possessed before. In a final, brutal moment, Krayt plunged his lightsaber into Twi'lek's chest, ending his rule and reclaiming his empire. As the lifeless body of the traitor collapsed at Krayt's feet, the Sith who remained had no choice but to kneel before the Dark Lord reborn. But Krayt was not satisfied with merely reclaiming his throne. His vision had evolved. Once, he had sought to bring peace and order under the rule of the One Sith. Now, he saw the truth. Order must be built from chaos. The galaxy itself had to be broken and reforged, just as he had been. Darth Krayt, now reborn and more powerful than ever, was eager to confront Cade Skywalker once again. To further lure Cade into battle, he commanded Talon to present the broken Imperial Knight, Draco, to him as a gift. To ensure Draco remained compliant and unable to resist, Talon had him frozen in carbonite before setting off to the wheel. Talon infiltrated the Mynock, Cade's personal starship. She stowed the carbonite-frozen Draco in the ship's cargo hold. Before departing, Skywalker intercepted her, leading to a brief but intense duel between the two. As always, Talon tested his strength, seeking to push him toward his darker instincts. Though their fight was fierce, Talon ultimately withdrew, choosing to flee rather than engage in an extended battle. With her mission accomplished and Draco now in Cade's possession, the trap was set. The stage was prepared for the final confrontation between Krayt and Cade Skywalker, a battle that would decide the fate of the One Sith, the Jedi, and the galaxy itself. The war between Darth Krayt's One Sith and the Galactic Alliance remnant alongside the Fel Empire reached its climactic conclusion on Coruscant. As the battle erupted, Cade Skywalker led an elite strike team into the heart of the Sith Temple on Coruscant, seeking to destroy Darth Krayt and cripple the Sith Order. Inside the temple, Darth Talon, alongside Darth Strife and a host of Sith defenders, stood ready to repel the attack. A vicious battle ensued, with Talon once again facing Cade Skywalker in a brutal lightsaber duel. Determined to eliminate Krayt's greatest threat, Talon fought with relentless aggression, calling upon the dark side and her Sith sorcery in an attempt to overwhelm Skywalker. However, by this point, Cade had grown far stronger than she anticipated. Talon underestimated Skywalker's raw power, and despite her ruthless attacks, he ultimately overpowered her. With Skywalker's attention momentarily diverted, as his Jedi Master, Wolf Sazon, fell in battle, Talon seized the opportunity and escaped into the depths of the temple. Shaken by Skywalker's strength, she hurried to warn Darth Krayt, fearing that her master's life was in danger. But her efforts proved futile. Cade Skywalker and Darth Krayt clashed one final time, a duel that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The battle was long and vicious, but in the end, Skywalker struck Krayt down, finally destroying the Dark Lord of the One Sith. With Krayt's death, the One Sith was thrown into complete chaos. Their empire, already weakened, crumbled rapidly as the victorious Galactic Alliance and Fel Empire claimed control over Coruscant. This led to the formation of a new ruling body, the Galactic Federation Triumvirate, a union between the Jedi, the Imperial Knights, and the remnants of the Galactic Alliance. With their empire shattered, Darth Talon and the surviving Sith were forced into hiding. Under Darth Nihil's command, the Sith abandoned their overt rule, choosing instead to dissolve into the shadows, infiltrating governments, institutions, and planetary systems. The goal was no longer to conquer through military force, but rather to manipulate from within, waiting for the right moment to strike back against the Jedi and the new galactic government. Darth Talon, ever loyal to the Sith, vanished into the unknown, carrying forward the dark vision of Darth Krayt, ensuring that the One Sith would never truly be extinguished. And that wraps up the story of Darth Talon, a Sith warrior unlike any other, whose loyalty to the dark side was absolute. If you enjoyed this deep dive into her journey, be sure to let us know in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more epic lore breakdowns. Next time, we're diving back into the Bionicle Timeline series, continuing our journey through one of the most intricate and legendary stories ever told. Until then, may the Force be with you.